Get ready to enter the Thrivetime Show.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, now we hit.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. We started from the bottom.
Oh, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the Thrivetime Show on your radio. And on today's show, we have a really special opportunity for you to meet a good friend of mine. You see, the year was 1999, and my wife was a cheerleader at Oral Roberts University. And her coach and sponsor, her name was Julie Fisher. And my wife was going to college at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She was a cheerleader and a coach. My wife helped coach and cheer, and a very talented cheerleader, very, very skilled. And Julie said, as one of the top sponsors, she said, "Could you watch my house? We're going on vacation." And so I, was dating Vanessa at the time, and I swung by the house after the Fishers returned home, and I thought, wow, this house is massive. Now, mind you, I never grew up in a home with granite countertops. I had never seen hand-scraped wood floors. I'd never been into a neighborhood with a gate. So I get the gate code, I type it in, boop, 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 and it opens, and I drive in, and I'm going, oh my gosh, these houses are massive. What in the world? I wonder if the people who live here must be rich. And Terry was the guy who owned the house, who built the businesses that allowed he and his wife to achieve time freedom and financial freedom. Terry Fisher is the co-founder of Trinity Chemical. And Trinity Chemical Industries was founded in 1985 by Terry and his partner with the purpose of identifying and meeting the needs of various bulk liquid shippers utilizing rail equipment. The railroads were really in the early stages of deregulation, and they were fighting to keep their market share of transported chemicals. Long story short, they started out in a 10-by-10 office cold calling businesses to earn their businesses. Companies like Exxon, just big oil and gas companies, big chemical companies. And for 3 consecutive years of cold calling, they found no water in the well. And then upon 3 years, they started landing some deals, and the rest is history. It's Trinity Chemical. So we had our workshop this past month here at our beautiful Thrivetime Show World Headquarters in beautiful Jinx, America, on the left coast of the beautiful Arkansas River, where the water is sometimes in the river. And so we had the workshop, and you're greeting people. I'm shaking hands, and I look over here. Somebody's from Guam over here. Somebody's from Florida. Somebody's from Canada. The poor guy from Canada, his flight got delayed, so he drove here. True story. So we had a guy from California, guys from Las Vegas. We've had people from Australia. We've had people from all over the place attend. And guess who's attending? My mentor, my friend, the guy who mentored me at age 18 and taught me how the world works. The guy who I called when I found out my son was blind. The guy he's like a Yoda. I stay in touch with him, but I mean, what's he doing attending my workshop? So I got nervous, like really nervous. I'm always nervous anyway, but I got really nervous. And then I asked Terry on Saturday if he'd be willing to come up and share his story. And so now, without any further ado, Terry Fisher, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical Industries, is going to share with you some mentor moments, some mentor magic, the kinds of things you can get at our workshops and the kinds of things that you can only get through the power of a mentor or a business coach. Because over time, you will become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Again, you will become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. To quote Tim Ferriss, the best-selling author of the 4-Hour Work Week, you are the average of the 5 people you associate with the most. That's Tim Ferriss. You might say, well, I don't like Tim Ferriss. I don't agree with Tim Ferriss. I'm not a big Tim Ferriss guy. I don't like him. I frankly prefer the Thrivetime Show podcast. Okay, fine. But Proverbs 13:20. Oh, now you're just using the Bible against us. Well, Proverbs 13:20 states, Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Walk with the wise and become wise, for the companion of fools suffers harm. What does that mean? It means that Tim Ferriss is just paraphrasing what's in the Bible. It's a proven concept. If you hang around with morons, you're going to become a moron. The people around you begin to set your expectations. They begin to define your normal. And so now, without any further ado, my interview live from the workshop with the man, the myth, the legend, Terry Fisher. If you don't know who Terry Fisher is, check out his website. It's tcixrail.com. tcixrail.com. And before the haters begin to ask, no, his website is not optimized. Why? Because he has thousands of customers and he gets them in a very different way than search engine marketing. It's very business-to-business, relationship-driven. He's been around since 1985. The year that Marty McFly went back in time. Remember that? So, without any further ado, here we go. Our interview with Terry Fisher from the Thrivetime Show Workshop. I remember it like it was yesterday. Hit the button, gate opens. I drive. All the houses are nice. People are mowing their lawns. There's no refrigerators on the lawns. There's no buses. There's no rednecks. Nice home. Nice wife. Upon further review, nice daughters. Nice guy. Over time, as I was dealing with life, I'd call Terry up. We did, probably half dozen lunches. And each time, I would leave with a notebook filled with information about how to be a better dad and how to be a better husband. And I only came for business questions. And I got the business questions answered real fast, but the dad and the husband questions were the ones that changed my life. Like, it was absolutely. And so I did not know you were going to be here. And so I see your daughter and you, and I'm going, Santa's here. So I wanted you to meet Santa. So without any further ado, let's put our hands together for Mr. Terry Fisher here. Yeah. All right. So, Terry, we're talking about building processes and systems. And can you kind of explain to everybody what your company, Trinity Chemical, does? And make sure his mic's nice and hot.
Yeah. The name of the company is Trinity Chemical Industries, but contrary to the way it sounds, we don't sell chemicals. A lot of confusion in that, but sometimes it works to our advantage. But we used to be in the business of moving a lot of chemicals, so we were in the logistics business, and so thus the chemical name developed. But we're in the process of changing that a little bit, but really what we do is we move stuff for other people with our rail cars. So we have a large fleet of rail cars that travel all over the country, travel in Canada, they travel in Mexico, they're going everywhere all the time. They rarely come to Tulsa. I rarely see them. They're everywhere.
And I quick thing. If you eat that mic, it'll be good for America. Sorry.
Just eat it. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's hot mic.
Okay, so I rarely see those rail cars. There we go.
Now you have thousands of cars. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But can we talk about what does one car cost?
That depends.
It's a cheap car.
It's kind of like the wedding question,
A cheap car. What's a cheap car cost to buy?
The less I've ever paid for a car might be $8,000.
Okay, and you have thousands of cars, railroad cars.
Most I've paid for the car is way more than that.
But you have thousands.
Way too much.
All I'm saying is just give you some context about you can look up Trinity Chemical, okay? So you can look it up there. It's online. You can find them. And so I want to talk about systems and processes because Marshall coaches people all the time. And the people we're coaching want to be like you someday. And you're a humble guy, but we'd all like to have thousands of some things and systems and great wife and great daughters and great hair. I mean, wow. So we wanted to. So talk to me. What's the hardest part about building systems? What's the hardest part about sitting down? So when you started Trinity, how did you start, and then how did you build systems?
Okay, I had to go back to a little bit on how we started. We literally had nothing. We really bootstrapped it from the beginning. So I can really identify with the startup guys because we had zero. For 3 years, we were in a 10 by 10 room. My partner and I were, if we both leaned back, at the same time we'd bump heads. We had 2 phones we bought at Sam's, 1 filing cabinet. We didn't have a fax machine. We had nothing. But we were literally selling air. We had nothing to sell, nothing. But we acted like we did. So the phrase about act big before you're big, that's what we did. And literally people would come and say, well, we're going to be in your town, so we thought we'd come by and see you. And we're like, crap, they're going to come by. They would show up at our door, and they would like open the door, and they couldn't get in. We're like, yeah. We'd stand up and meet in the hallway or something. It was really ridiculous. But the part that was fun about it was we persevered, and we persevered, and we persevered, and we made the calls like they're saying, how many times did you call? We had call lists, and we would call, and we would call, and we go, how many times did you call him? I called him yesterday. Did you call him this morning? Yes. Did you call him this afternoon? Yeah. Did you send him an email? Yes. Okay. And literally you just have to keep calling and keep calling and keep calling. And finally you get to the right person. But through all of that, the honesty about it was, I remember we made a pitch to a big chemical company, and we made our pitch. We wanted a 5-year contract. And so he said, well, time out. First of all, we're not going to give you a 5-year contract. That's off the table. Okay. And we had our contract, and we pitched it to him, and we had our contract, and he said, and this right here, we'll just put that aside. We're never going to use your contract. Okay. If we do business, we'll use our contract. And on top of that, if you screw up, no matter what's on that page, we will get out of it. We're bigger than you are, and we will run you out of the business. We're like, oh, this is not going good. So then he says, finally, but I kind of like the pitch you gave. You kind of sound like you know what you're doing. I'm going to give you a shot. Here's the way it's going to work. Give you a 1-year deal. You want 5, and give you a 1-year deal. But that's only conditional that you do what you say. So if you screw up, we're going to get out of the deal. So here's the 2 deals. We're going to give you a 1-year shot, do your deal, be honest, perform, and we'll keep doing business. If you keep doing business, it'll probably keep going. So we said, well, that's okay, we'll take that. Yeah, perfect. He said, one last question. How big is your company? You sound like you know what you're doing, but just how big is your company? We went, shoot.
Shoot.
Well,
Busted.
We looked at each other and we went, you're really looking at it. He said, I kind of thought so. But I really wanted to hear you say that. Glad you owned up to it. We got a deal. Now, that company, Exxon. Today, 35 years later, we're still doing business with Exxon. And we have lots of cars with them, and they're running all over the country. So I just want to say that whenever the small deals that you're working on and, honesty, just being who you are, persevering, make your pitch, don't be afraid. It works out. So
it's like 36 months, though, 3 years. You're in a 10x10 office, just grinding.
Yep.
And we wrote here on the Boom Book on page 153. He's the personification of these principles. I wrote here, once you have built repeatable and profitable systems, you'll discover that you have built a time freedom and financial freedom creating business that serves you, not an overwhelming job. This is the part that I'm working through. You can coach me now, coach all of us here. We work so hard in our businesses, and I think a lot of times if we're not careful, the business becomes us.
Yep.
We are the business, and all we care about is the business. The business does not exist to serve us. We exist to serve the business. All we do is the business. The business is what we do. It's all we think about. And if we have any time left at all, we think about family. But you think about family first, which completely blew my mind that a guy could be super successful financially and also put the family first. Please explain how systems have allowed you to create the time freedom that you now enjoy. Learn how to create time freedom and financial freedom from Terry Fisher with Trinity Chemical when we return. But first, go to theclassicclean.com for all of your Tulsa janitorial needs. Go to theclassicclean.com for all of your Tulsa janitorial needs.
Get ready to enter the Thrivetime Show.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, now we hit.
Started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm a dive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's CNC up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we hit. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the
Oh, Thrive Nation, note to self and note to you. In your studio, you never want to let your cats loose in the ceiling of your studio because my cats climbed into the ceiling of my studio, and I have framed pictures on my ceiling because I have psychological problems, and I have to surround myself with positive thoughts at all times. And so my wife and I had a photo of us from when we were young whippersnappers. We'd probably be circa 2006, 2007. And much to my surprise, much to my amazement, the cats knocked down one of the framed images from the ceiling, thus creating breakage. And now in the background, you're hearing us sweep up the remains of the glass. But we move on. We put the framed image back up in the ceiling. We've recovered. Emotionally, I've recovered. I'm not upset about it. Worst case scenario, I've got to go buy another framed item, which gives me yet another chance to go to Hobby Lobby, which is my favorite place to go anyway, outside of Atwood's and Guitar Center, which is pretty much where all my stories take place. All my stories are this just in, Dateline, Guitar Center. This just in, Dateline from Hobby Lobby. The other day, I was at Atwood's and... So, again, just a quick reminder, maybe you want to get a tattoo of that or put it on a T-shirt, but if you have a underground walkout basement studio, don't let the cats roam free or they will break your glass. That's my notable quotable for the day. But today we're talking about the power of mentors and finding a business mentor. How do you find a business mentor? Well, at our last conference, a guy who mentored me showed up at the workshop. I didn't know he was coming. I didn't know he was going to attend. Blew my mind. I mean, here's this guy who my wife was in college cheering at Oral Roberts University, and his wife was one of the sponsors, and she was heavily involved in the program. She asks my wife to house sit for her. Next thing you know, I'm meeting Terry Fisher, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical, and this guy had so much success. He had a gate. What? He lives in a gated neighborhood. You hit the button, boop, 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 boop. Door opens. Everyone has a lawn that's mowed. People had pools in the backyard. Granite countertops. Wood floors. What? I had never seen these accoutrements. I had never seen the decor, and I wanted to know more. And thankfully, Terry Fisher agreed to take me out to lunch and to take me to the proverbial woodshed and to teach me how life works. And so without any further ado, a little bit of an impromptu interview with Terry Fisher. He showed up at the conference, and so I thought to myself, do you want to ruin the conference? No, I don't. Okay, you should probably interview the smartest man in the room. And so we got Terry Fisher on the mic at the Thrivetime Show Conference explaining how he and his partner went from a 10 by 10 office space where they made 3 years of consecutive outbound cold calls with no success and turned it into a multi-million-dollar company known today as Trinity Chemical. We'll put a link to the website on the show notes, but you can check them out online at tcixrail.com. Stay tuned.
Well, well, first of all, the way our system works is, I'm going to back up just one quick thing before we get one of my mentors early on, when he was coaching us about being confident about what we were doing. And I was working for him at the time, and we would go to make our pitch, and then he would say to us when we came out of the meeting, and I'd say, John, we can't do that. And you committed us. We don't even know what to do. And he goes, I know, but they don't know that. We can do this. We'll figure it out. I'm like, oh, okay. Perfect. I learned how to sell things that I didn't know really what I was doing, but the optimism and the confidence that you will learn it and you'll figure it out. The only thing I coach our people on is this in our system is the only thing I can't fix is inaction. You have to do something. If you make a mistake, we'll fix it. But do the action. You have to take the steps. And accountability in the system that we have, the follow-up, is a lot of people don't like that. But you say, close the loop. I love that about Clay when he's saying, if you call me, hey, it's like a dog with a bone. I will eventually reach you.
I had a friend of mine who worked with you for years. This is funny. He just started working for you, and he goes, these guys micromanage me. They follow up on me every day about my calls, every day. And I said, really? We're meeting for lunch. And he says, every day. I said, every day? Because I'm an owner and he's an employee. We're the same age. We went to college together. And I just thought this was a fun conversation. So I just wanted to get his perspective. I'm like, how does it make you feel? He's like, like an animal. He follows up every day. And then been there probably 6 months or a year. I said, how's it going? He said, oh man, we're having a lot of success. I said, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm basically doing the same thing every day, but it's that consistency, that follow-up, and that culture. Yeah. So once you have the system, you followed up every day, and the guy ended up liking the system and stayed with you for years and bragged about it.
Yeah.
But at first, he wasn't used to that follow-up. You know, so what would be a system right now where you follow up on every day, where it just has to be right, and it's because you have thousands of cars. How do you keep track of the cars? What kind of systems have you built?
Well, the two things that are critical about our cars is if I put myself in the customer's position, they want to know also where their equipment is all the time, because that's their product in the car. And we're more concerned about the car is moving efficiently through the system, but it's that system part of it. We recognize and know where the cars are because we're built into, and most people don't realize this, but it's the national defense systems that every rail car moving in the United States and Canada and Mexico is built into the national defense system. So, but I can look at that system and see where my cars are on a real-time basis all the time, every day. So if something happens, an emergency happens in the world, or Twin Towers comes down, immediately all the rail cars that are carrying dangerous products in the world stop. Immediately, no matter where they are.
Marshall, talk to me. You have an Elon Musk quote, because I want to get Terry's take on this about. Read the Musk quote here, too.
Okay. It says, excessive use of made-up acronyms is a significant impediment to communication, and keeping communication good as we grow is incredibly important. Individually, a few acronyms here and there may not seem so bad, but if 1,000 people are making these up, over time, the result will be a huge glossary that we will have to issue to new employees. No one can actually remember all of these acronyms, and people don't want to seem dumb in a meeting, so they just sit there in ignorance.
So Elon Musk, they tried to send the SpaceX rockets to space. 3 times they blew up, and they found out that the cause of the blow-ups was acronyms.
Yeah.
People literally thought someone meant something else, and they made it wrong, and it blew up. So Elon Musk began firing anybody who used acronyms because no one knows what things mean. Small business owners are notorious for saving stuff on their desktop and can't find the passwords. Anybody here can't find your passwords? Well, what's terrible is if you're not detailed about how you save things, you don't insist on everyone doing it the same way, you end up being called all the time because no one knows what's going on. Thrive Nation, when we return, more mentor moments from Terry the Legendary Fisher. That's Terry the Legendary Fisher. But between now and when you come back from the break, I encourage you to go to onyximaging.com. That's onyximaging.com, where you can save both time and money on your office and printer supplies. Save both time and money? What? On your office supplies. Save time and money on your office supplies? onyximaging.com. Stay tuned.
Attend the world's best business workshop led by America's #1 business coach for free by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us an objective review. Claim your tickets by emailing us proof that you did it and your contact information to info@thrivetimeshow.com.
Nation, welcome back to the Thrivetime Show on your radio. And for those of you who attended our past workshop that we just had in June, it was stellar. We had Canada represented, we had Minnesota represented, we had Florida represented, we had California represented, we had Texas, New York, we had Missouri. All you're doing is listing off states. No, there's South Dakota. We had Minot, South Dakota, Minot, M-I-N-O-T. And we had Tulsa, Oklahoma represented. We had a guy that showed up who impacted my life tremendously as a mentor. And I think a lot of the people that I've met at workshops say, I'm just trying to find a good business mentor. And here's the problem. If you worked your entire life to create time freedom and financial freedom, would you want to spend your day arguing with somebody about how they should run their business? You probably wouldn't. And so at the conference, Terry Fisher showed up. And when he showed up, we didn't expect him to be there. And so I recorded him at the conference, and we are going to be breaking down his audio here so that you, the Thrive Nation, can benefit from it. But he showed up at the conference, and I thought, well, if Terry Fisher's at the conference, the smartest man at the conference must speak. And so I got him up on the mic. And so Terry Fisher, the founder of Trinity Chemical, got up there and spoke and shared with us how he went from a 10 by 10 office space he was leasing, and after 3 years of consecutive non-fruitful cold calling, was able to turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. But Vanessa, I met Terry as a result of your relationship with his daughter,
Yes.
Terry, and his wife, Julie. Could you kind of explain?
His daughter, Lindsay, yes.
Or his daughter, Lindsay.
Yeah.
His daughter, Lindsay, and his wife, Julie.
Correct.
Can you explain how you got to meet Lindsay and Julie and kind of what Terry Fisher is all about?
Well, I cheered at ORU with Lindsay Fisher, and I will tell you the impact peer-to-peer of interacting with her. I know you have said this. I said the number one thing I think you take away from each one of the Fisher children is how much they idolize and look up to and revere their father. And that is because that is no accident. That is because of the things that he has done in his life. And I remember I felt that way because here I am peer-to-peer with someone and said, I never have heard one of my peers talk about their dad in this light. You know, she's like, when I marry someone, he's going to be like my dad. There's no one as good as my dad. And each of those children, they mean it. And I think you had the same takeaway.
Right. Blew my mind. It blew my mind. And so I'm honored to introduce you, Thrive Nation, to one of my mentors, the great Terry Fisher, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical, but really importantly, more importantly, the co-founder of a great family, a great father, a great American, and the kind of guy who would take time out of his schedule to mentor me for the low price of free. He wouldn't allow me to reciprocate, and Terry helped Vanessa and I tremendously. And so, Terry Fisher, this one's for you. How do you keep your team with thousands of files all saving things the right way, labeling things the right way, following the right? How do you keep everybody doing that?
We do have a contact management system, but also a database system so that all the customers are filed under a certain name the same way. So you can look up a customer, then you can look up the contracts, you can look up the different amendments, you can look up the riders, you can look up the equipment. So if you just click on the customer's name, immediately you get a ladder of what you want to find out about that customer. Who's the contact? What's their telephone?
What if I worked for you?
Yeah.
And not you guys, it's just me, okay? I'm a dysfunctional man. I decide to work for you. I've got a degree, some background. I've somehow earned this job. And you notice that I am not saving files the right way. I show up to work on time. I smile. I'm kind.
Yeah.
I've brought you wonderful salads and gifts and Christmas cards, and I'm all those things. But I do not save files correctly. How do you deal with that?
So it is a follow-up system so that there's kind of a ladder of accountability so that there's three aspects to why our information is critical. Number one is what happens to the rail car, who has it and why they have it. So that database is built, the product that's in their car, how the car's outfitted, how long they're going to keep the car, the number of cars in the fleet, what the product is, and the type of fittings it has on the car. Everything about the car is kept in this big database. So the person managing that account has to enter that data into the account, and then that keeps us accountable for if the car comes to the shop and gets repaired, because it's like an automobile. The more you run it, that gets repaired, and it has to stop and go and get fixed. So that happens all the time.
I see a lot of people that struggle getting their teammates to do the system.
That's true. So
How do
you
you
have to
deal
go
with
back and say, I looked at the cars, I looked at the file, it's not in there, you need to put it in there. Okay, I'm going to go in. Then I have to look at it again. But I do the same thing that you said earlier, is that if I expect my teammates to ask me the same questions, I'm just as accountable to them as they are to me. If they ask me to follow up, I make sure then follow up. And then I'll follow up. I call it being the loop closer. If you text me, I'll text you back. If I ask you to do something, I'm going to come back to you and ask you if you did it, unless you text me and say, hey, that thing you asked me to do, I got it done.
I think most business owners that I've coached, and I would like to get Marshall your take on this, they themselves refuse to use their own system, but they're irritated that the employees won't do it. Like, they themselves will not do the database. They're like, well, I don't do the database. You guys do the database. I see that a lot, probably 95% of the time, where the owner themselves will not follow the script, but you should follow the script. And I know for you, you're all about, I'm going to do it, so you're going to follow my example. Marshall, have you seen this phenomenon?
Who here is the best salesperson currently at your company? You are the best salesperson. Like, yes. Like you hold that role, yeah? So if you want to always be that person, the first key is to not create a script. Okay? But if at some point you want to grow beyond yourself having to do every single sale, okay, and close every single deal, then you're going to have to create a script. And the best way to show, hey, this is the system that works, is record your own calls, script your own calls, and hold yourself accountable to using the script. And if you can hold yourself accountable to using the script that you've created, then you know that when you train somebody and hold them accountable to using it, you know that it can work.
I have two final questions I want to ask Terry, because I want to get your take on this. This is powerful. The word integrity comes from the root word meaning integer, which is indivisible number.
Okay.
You are Captain Integrity. So it's without talking about integrity. You don't speak, you don't travel around speaking. You haven't written books called Integrity, the Terry Fisher Way. I mean, you haven't written a book about how you grew up and here's how I do. You probably should though, but you haven't. But at the same time, you just exude that. And everyone I know who's worked with you has said, if Terry says he'll do it, he'll do it. And I think a lot of people, I know me, I'd be guilty of this early on in my career. We're motivated, we're chasing a big dream, but we hit the snooze button.
Yep.
And I know the first couple years of my business, that was kind of the thing. Like, I want to do it, but I don't do it. And then I get all feeling like depressed because I don't do what I think. I like make a commitment to myself, and I don't even honor my own commitments to myself.
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated to do the right thing? Thrive Nation, when we return from the break, more mentor moments from Terry Fisher, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical. It's amazing when you have a mentor in your life show up at a workshop and he's taking notes. So, Terry, I appreciate you. It meant the world to me to have you attend the workshop. And Thrive Nation, on behalf of Dr. Z and myself, during the break, go to hoodcpas.com. Just go to hoodcpas. Shouldn't they go to hoodcpas.com one time?
If you want to get your numbers in line, if you want to, have someone that's going to be proactive, and show you the way instead of trying to figure out what happened,
go to hoodcpas.com. Stay tuned.
3, 2, 1, boom! You are now entering the dojo of Mojo and the Thrivetime Show.
Thrivetime Show on the microphone. What is this? Top of the iTunes charts in the category of business. Drilling down on business topics like we are a dentist. Providing you with mentorship like you are an apprentice. And we go so fast that you might get motion sickness. Grab a pen and pad to the lab. Let's get in this. It's time to bear some fruit like some Florida oranges. 3, 2, 1. Here come the business ninjas.
Sonic boom.
Oh, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the conversation. Dr. Z, how are you, my friend?
I am fantastic, as always.
Well, Z, we have so many people today that we've had attend our conferences who told me they were searching for the term finding a business mentor. They were searching into Google, find a business mentor, how do you find one? And here's what I have found is that a lot of times the people, not a lot of times, I'd say all the time, the people who have the time freedom and financial freedom earned it. And therefore, they are very particular with how they spend their time.
Yes.
Not because they're bad people, but they've been through hell and back to get to where they are. And so at the conference, a guy, Terry Fisher, whose wife was the cheer sponsor at Oral Roberts University when my wife cheered there, Julie called, that would be my wife's cheer sponsor at Oral Roberts University. Julie calls my wife when she's 18 and says, hey, could you house sit our house? So when they came back from town, the Fishers invited us over as a couple to meet them. And I pull up.
Now, where were you in the stage of your relationship with Vanessa?
I had just been dating Vanessa maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, so you were.
They came back for like Christmas break or something.
Okay. So you're still not bona fide.
And I show up at their house, and Vanessa says there's a gate code. So I had a hand-painted 1989 hatchback Ford Escort.
Sexy.
So I type in the gate code. Boop, 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 boop. And I've never been to a house with a gate, ever. Blows my mind.
Okay.
We're driving by. See, all the lawns are mowed.
That's amazing.
See, there's the curly Q bushes. You know, the bushes in the shape of the curl.
yeah.
See, what do you call that move? Is there a name for that?
It's
move?
the curly Q move.
So then, and see, they had front lawns like your house. I used to remember I would walk up to your house, and it was like there wasn't weeds. There weren't weeds.
Yeah.
See, do you remember that?
Oh,
You
yeah.
remember the time? The curly Qs, the whole. Do you remember the whole thing? The gate.
Yes.
So I was like, "What's going on?" I walk in the house.
This is the next level.
He opens the door, and they have vaulted ceilings,
Oh my.
hand scraped floors.
Oh my.
See, no linoleum.
None?
No, they had granite countertops.
Oh, come on.
No, and see, I had never seen that stuff, and my mind was blown. And I remember asking him a stupid question like, "How did you build your house?" Like something like that.
Yeah, how did you?
And I remember he said this super graciously. I remember this line. And Terry, I apologize if I'm butchering your phrase, but Terry says, "Clay, curiosity is the key to wealth. Why don't we do lunch sometime?" So I think it was like, that was probably the dumbest question I've ever heard in my life, but good start.
Good start. You at least asked a question. You were at least it was a curious question.
So we meet for lunch, and he explains to me, Clay, you have to build wealth one step at a time. And my partner and I, we started in a 10-by-10 office, cold calling businesses to earn their business for 3 consecutive years before we landed our first big deals. And now today we have thousands of railroad cars, and it's called Trinity Chemical. And I didn't know what to do, so I just looked at him and thought, this changes everything.
Did he say cold call?
Because with my DJ company, my sad, stupid DJ company, I never made call because I was overwhelmed by fear. So I want to get your take on 2 big learning opportunities here.
Okay, here we go.
One, how does somebody out there who's listening find a good mentor? How do they find a mentor? And how do we get over the fear of rejection, whether it's cold calling, finding a mentor, or whatever? Because I think so many people get stuck on that fear area.
2 great questions. Well, thank you, Al Gore. You made finding a mentor much easier.
This just in.
Apparently, you can Google it, find the Thrive Nation,
right,
and come to an in-person workshop.
Thank you, Alvin.
And start building that. If you depend on your budget, you could do the online mentoring school.
Right.
You could do one-on-one business coaching.
By the way, the best value in the world, $20, $19.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
And if you have no budget, you could just rip off the podcast for free.
Right.
I think that's
and you can tap into your roommate's internet connection.
Right. Now, the other traditional way to do that is that in your community, there are some very successful people, or more successful than you.
Can we call them goats?
Yeah, let's call them goats.
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time. And you see them around town. You can tell by the homes they live in, like you just, pointed out. You can tell by the cars they drive in. You can tell by just, the lifestyle they're leading. Right?
Right.
I've got a place at the lake and a big boat. Yeah, guy must be doing pretty good.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. So you find some guys like that, and then you try to find your angle into them. See, your angle in was through your girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Who knew the wife.
Right.
And then you made the move.
I made the move.
You made the move.
I made the move.
You made the move.
Boom. I made the move.
You made the move. You say, hey.
I knew a guy. I knew a lady who knew a lady who knew a guy.
I'm curious, and I'm a business owner, and how do you build a thing like this?
And then he shows up at the workshop.
Boom. That's really kind of cool.
So I thought to myself, the smartest guy at the workshop is currently not mic'd. Maybe I should see if he should go speak. Because I pulled him aside and said, Terry, would you be happy to talk? He's like, well, I'm not a speaker, not a talker guy, but sure. So without any further ado, our exclusive interview from the Thrivetime Show in-person workshop.
Wait, time out.
With Terry Fisher. But quick.
Wait, you asked me a second question about the fear. You want me to come back to the fear?
Well, let me do this. Let me hit a sound effect so it sounds less awkward. This just in. Back to part 2 of the question.
Part 2. Dose. For our Hispanic population.
That's right.
Yes, because we are bilingual and we are, make sure that
Tri-coastal.
Yes, there you go.
Bilingual.
Yes, of course.
Multicultural.
Now, how to get over the fear?
Oof.
That's a tough one because sometimes in life, I love that saying that Nike came out with, just do it.
Right.
You just have to do it. First of all, you have to practice. Look in the mirror and practice, first of all. If you can't even look in the mirror and practice, we've got to step back, okay?
Step back.
Just record yourself. Just record yourself without even looking at yourself. And then eventually you can actually do the call pretending. You're pretending now. You could do the call in the mirror, okay? And then...
Yes, is this Terry Fisher? Terry? Yes. No, that didn't sound good. Terry, is this Terry? No. Is this Terry?
Is this someone who knows Terry?
Who is this? Hey, Terry, what are you doing?
Oh, Terry.
No, let me try again. No.
So then, now we're moving forward, right?
We're moving
So now we feel comfortable with her voice. We feel comfortable with saying the words in the correct order.
Yes.
We feel comfortable with looking in the mirror and doing it as if we're doing it with somebody else. And then we find someone who's friendly to us, maybe a significant other, a small child,
a significant brother.
And then you role play with them the call, okay? And you might have them be rude a few times. Don't see how that feels a little bit. You know it's coming, but that's
there
okay.
We go.
And then you maybe have them,
if you hire a PR firm, they have this thing called the rude interview where they actually practice asking you rude questions while role playing with you. That's actually what PR firms do.
That's what they do. So now what you've done, you've done it by yourself. You've done it in the mirror. You've done it with a friendly person. And now guess what? You're ready for the big leagues.
You're ready for the big leagues.
You're ready for the big leagues.
So you know what we're going to have to do? When we come back from the break, we're going to cue up this audio, this exclusive interview with Terry Fisher.
I can hardly wait.
But I want to tap into your wisdom on one more question.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So many people think, well, Terry Fisher couldn't possibly help me out. He's only a multi-million-dollar, he's only a multi-millionaire in the area of hauling hazardous, chemicals and cold calling. He's only an expert in the areas of trains and railroads. But then if you ask Terry how he got the money to start, you would understand that he opened up a Christian bookstore across from Oral Roberts University.
Good placement.
Because he was trying to date a Christian and he was not a Christian.
Interesting.
So, Z, can you learn? Aren't most businesses more similar than they are different? I mean, so many people get hung up on that. Like, I'm looking for an expert of former Christian, not Christian, converted into a Christian railroad car companies.
Well, if you look at some of my core businesses that I have now, one's an optometry clinic, pretty traditional optometry clinic. If you've been into a doctor's office, it's pretty standard.
Very classic.
And then I have an auto auction, which is a dealer's-only auto auction.
Totally the same. Both involve vowels. Optometry, auto,
each have locations.
Both have locations. It's
yes.
obviously the same business.
And they have a diagnostic sleep center.
Which is the same thing. They're all just businesses.
But you're right. They are more similar than they are different. And you have the same mindset, the same problem solving, the same steps that you do to make them successful. And that's why when people come to our in-person workshops, we don't have to change for everybody's sake.
All businesses are the same.
All businesses same.
They're the same. You just run the system and you dominate.
Take pebble from hand, the same.
You go in business and you dominate.
Yes.
If you're in a business that's not the same, you better be a genius. Like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah. But even then, Tesla, even then, Apple, even all those have the core basics of a business.
The core basics of a business.
He may be the first one that came out with the electric car and the quantity and the way he did it, but still, a car's a car.
A car's a car.
A car's a car.
This just in from our home office.
This just in.
Now, let me tell you this, Thrive Nation. Also, a spine is a spine. A spine is a spine. See, you want to put that on a shirt.
When a spine's in line, it's divine.
And when a spine is in line, it's divine. And I'll tell you what, the best thing you could do, the thing you could do that would be the most kind to your body is to reach out to Sibley Chiropractic. That's drjohnsibley.com. That's DRJOHN Sibley.com. Tulsa's #1 chiropractor, the chiropractor of choice for the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Check him out today. That's drjohnsibley.com. That's drjohnsibley.com. Stay tuned.
And now, broadcasting live from the box that rocks, it's the Thrivetime Business Coach Radio Show.
It's time for higher learning and higher earning. Taking you to the top like we're hiking Mount Vernon. We're changing the mindsets like we're incense burning. Passing on the magic like our name was Irvin. Serving up that knowledge like I was a servant. And I cite what I say so you know I'm not a servant. It's Thrivetime Show, bringing the heat while fervent. Giving it to you straight in a world that's swerving. Stacking the cash, making the dash, earning the plaques, bringing it back. Bring me the track so I can get up on the mic and speak the facts. Stacking the cash, making the dash, earning the plaques, bringing it back. Bring me the track so I can get up on the mic and speak the facts. All Thrive Nation, you are in for an audio treat today. It's a festival of knowledge you can't get in college. It's that mentorship that's going to give you that mindset shift you need to get to where you want to go. Z, we're talking today about the power of mentorship, and we're going to go to live audio in just a moment with from our conference where we had an opportunity to interview Terry Fisher, the co-founder of the multi-million-dollar company Trinity Chemical. But Z, I want to tap into your wisdom, and then we'll go into the audio here.
Perfect. Okay.
Proverbs 13:20 reads. Well, I'm going to get my epic music going so I can read it better.
Wow. That would be better.
It would be much better.
Let me try.
In time.
Here we go.
That's
Here we go.
already better.
So I feel bad.
Proverbs 13:20 reads, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." You might think to yourself, I don't like that book. That's fine. I'm going to Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Workweek. He writes, Timothy, you are the average of the 5 people you most associate with. Z, why do you like hanging out with successful guys? How does that impact your soul and your mind when you surround yourself with dudes who know what they're talking about?
It rubs off on you. And first of all, it's more fun. And, you have guys that are like-minded, people that are successful, and it's just fun. I mean, they get you. You speak the same language.
What if you surround yourself with the idiots? What if you hang around the morons?
You lose the money.
What if you hang around the idiots?
Well, then you become the idiot. If like my saying, if you run with the dogs, you're going to get the...
You get the fleas.
You get the fleas. And that's one thing that, we've challenged Thrive Nation on several occasions to look at your 5 inner circle friends. And
connect those dots.
Are any of them idiots?
We have
Is that a strong term?
We have an audio clip
idiot?
from we had a caller. We had a caller that called in, and it's probably 2 years to this date. He pretty passionate chap. He calls in and he says,
I think I remember this.
He says, I am not going to surround myself with high quality people. I'm going to hang around whoever I happen to know
prove you wrong.
Geographical circumstance, whoever I go to school with, whoever's in my family. I'm going to hang out with those people, and you'll see. I'll become successful. I'm not going to change the 5 people I spend the most time with.
In your face.
And then he called in today to share with us what happened as a result of not making that change. Okay. So, Chubb, here's the audio. We had to cut him off. It got too toxic.
Now, you kids are probably saying to yourselves, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the world by the tail and wrap it around and pull it down and put it in my pocket. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're probably going to find out as you go out there that you're not going to amount to jack squat.
Whoa.
So
Debbie Downer.
He's a little bit disgruntled there. He should have upgraded his social circles. Now, without any further ado, let's listen to a guy who's super wise, super kind, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical. That's Terry Fisher.
Let's get richer with Terry Fisher.
How do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated to do the right thing?
If you look in, I'm a great believer in journaling, writing down, and to-do lists. But in my personal life, outside of my business, and this you'll find this in almost everything I read, everything I'm taking notes on. There's a circle somewhere on the page where I have divided my life into circles. And when I meet somebody or I'm reading something, I'm finding out where does that fit in this circle.
The circle.
So this circle is sort of like the F6, and my circle looks like this. If you put a pie up there, draw a line through the half, and then an extra there. At the very top of this circle is the W. Now, these are my letters that my life revolves around. There's a W at the top, an S at the bottom. Over on the left is an F, M, and P. So all those letters mean to me more than anybody else. But what it means is at the top of this W, that stands for the word. And so for me, I used to have different letters, but I kind of simplified it. So this W stands for the word, and that means my personal faith, my personal life, my personal relationship. That's me reading the Bible and saying, how does that apply to me? That S at the bottom stands for society, social, friends, colleagues, strangers, however you want to word it. It's everybody outside my extended family. Church life, etc. F over here is family. F over here is finances. M is my mental life. P is my physical life. Every time I'm reading something, I figure out where does that fit in my life. So if you ask me different things about that, okay, what am I doing with I'm a continual learner. I read all the time. That's my mental life. Physical life, I'm working out all the time. I have my own personal gym in my garage. It's kind of a joke in my family. So, but primarily,
he has like old man strength. which you're notorious for your strength. So don't arm wrestle. Maybe Charles, you guys can arm wrestle later, but this is his. Do you just go there to throw the weights around?
No, I've got the weights, I've got the Peloton, I've got the rowing machine. But it's my personal deal. That's where I go and release and work out. So, but the number one thing in my life is my family. Outside of my faith, number one is my family. So I never, in all my career, put my work ahead of my family. So a lot of people work Saturdays, a lot of people work monster hours. I never did. Now, that may not fit with this crowd. I'm not a workaholic. I'll own up to that. But I am committed to what I say I'm going to do. So,
which is the same, you and Dr. Zellner are the same way. Because when you are around Dr. Zellner, you would think he works all the time, but he works almost never. Like maybe 4 hours a week, 5 hours. He comes in the office to follow up and make sure that the things are happening. He has set meetings he's agreed to be at. But it's like because you guys put your family first, which is an interesting idea. Yeah. You've built systems that can work without you. Yeah. But because the family's first, you're always going, is this a scalable idea that could work without me doing it? Because if it's not, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Is that helpful? Like that idea? Is that helping anybody? Like if there's an idea that could work, but it would involve you doing it, you won't do it because it would involve you doing it over and over.
Well, we kind of have a thing in that I've kind of developed in my mindset, my partner and I. If you think that your success of your business, every decision has to revolve around you, and you have to be involved in absolutely everything, then you're the choke point. Because you cannot do everything, period. You'll never grow beyond your limited little scope of your talent. You may be very, very talented, and some of you will you're going to get to a certain point where you can't do it all, period. It just happens. So you have to learn how to delegate, and you have to learn how to have a system.
Because Terry's here, Santa is here. The circle. Does anybody have any questions for Terry? Because he probably will never be at another conference again because he's not a paid speaker guy. But he's done it. He's doing it. Does anybody have any questions for him at all about systems, processes, or creating time freedom? Because he is here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
What kind of database do you use? A certain system or?
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think of the system. I don't really remember the name of it. We've had it for so long.
Real quick, this is what I'm talking about.
Do you remember the system? Okay.
Real quick, let me say this. Listen. Dr. Zellner, the other day, we were talking to somebody, and someone goes, hey, Z, what's your number one selling frame? And he goes, I don't know. And they'll go, well, who's your top sales rep? Really don't know? Like, well, what do you know? He's like, well, $99, your first pair of glasses. You get that. You go in, and we're going to spend, $10,000 a month on ads. We got our three-legged marketing stool going on. We interview people every week. And
Furthermore, he said, if I did have to know those numbers, I would need to fire somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
I would tell you a couple stories, though, that I liked using humor, and then one about dealing with a hard customer. I did have a sales guy that was late perennially, all the time.
Oh.
So, but he was a really fun guy, and he was a great guy to have around, and we didn't fire him, and I probably should have. Man, he's a youth pastor today, and that fits in his role perfectly. But I got tired of him being late one day, so I finally was, okay, I want to use humor to diffuse this, so I said, Matt, let me just talk to you for a minute about what it means to be on time. So I'm going to say, I'm going to be you for a little bit here, and so I'm going to go out, and I'm going to come in. It's the start of the day, and we're just getting started, so here you come. And I go out to the door, and I run into the room, and I literally do the baseball slide, and I slide into my desk, and I hit my stopwatch on my clock. Made it at like 8:02 or something. I'm like, Matt, that is not on time. You cannot do that every day. So if you do that tomorrow, you're going home. So we had to send Matt home a few times until he started picking up. But I had to find a way to say, you can't slide in home base and then hit your stopwatch and then say, oh yeah, now I need to go to the restroom and I need to get my cup of coffee and I need to, and about an hour later you're going to work. That's not on time.
Yeah.
So I had, You have to find ways to jokingly motivate people, and then sometimes you have to get mad and you have to do things and break things, but not very often.
Z, I want to get your take on this because Terry was talking about managing people. And there's just some people he was sharing about that, just getting them to show up to work on time can challenge you. I mean, it could just be a challenging thing. It could wear you out. Just certain people convincing them, coaching them, motivating them, trying to get your employees just to show up on time.
Well, I mean, if you were a life coach, that sounds like you're right, signed up for what you're supposed to be doing, right?
So I would ask you, because I think you and Terry share a very similar worldview on this, how long do you put up with the chronically late person? Or what do you do with a chronically late person, for all the listeners out there who manage a team of people?
Well, there's two things. One, you want to always replace them on your time. So that's a sidebar. It's a side note. So whenever you do decide that you have finally had enough.
Finally had enough.
And that's up to you. You know, sometimes, I'll be honest with you, Clay.
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah.
May I be honest?
It was nice of you to ask.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to just mentally prepare myself for some let's get some honest music. This way it gives you the opportunity to really share with that honest, sincere tone. Here we go.
Well, let me tell you a story.
Yes.
Had a young man that worked for me years ago. And when he was there, he outworked everybody 2-1. He was a rock star. But the dude was just always a little late. Now, why did I give him more grace? And why did I put up with his face a lot more than the other dude that was chronically late all the time, but didn't work when he was there? It's the whole sum that you look at. It's hard to break out just one aspect of the 5 A's that I look for. But he's not a piece of pie. Attendance is just one. There's accuracy.
Come back from the break. So he's going to break down his 5 A's.
Oh, yeah.
But first, let's all go to will-con.com.
We all hold hands over
You need a new castle.
If you're trying to add on to your building, trying to build a new building, if you're trying to build a brand new commercial building, starting with nothing but your bare hands, you're starting with the hands of a bear, and you want to hire someone to build your building, go to Williams Contracting. Check them out online at will-con.com. It's will-con.com. Don't be a communist. Go to will-con.com.
Boom.
Attend the world's best business workshop led by America's #1 business coach for free by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us an objective review. Claim your tickets by emailing us proof that you did it and your contact information to info@thrivetimeshow.com.
Oh, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the Thrivetime Show on your radio. And for anybody who is just tuning in to the podcast for the first time, let me say this, Z. Last Friday, we had a massive workshop at our beautiful Riverwalk location, and 2 unicorn events happened simultaneously, Z.
Oh, my.
And Z, you know what sound a unicorn makes?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Kind of like a horse.
Well, that's what... that's all I got. Okay, so
The first one was obviously my flag suit.
So, well, no, but that was maybe plan 3. That was one of our 4th or 5th highlights. One is we hit #1 in the world on all categories with our podcast on iTunes. #1 in the world, which right there, that is hysterical because I have no discernible talent. So that right there was great. Second is one of my longtime mentors and friends, a guy, Terry Fisher, who really, really made a big impact in my life, a guy who's the co-founder of Trinity Chemical. He showed up at the workshop to attend. And it's crazy when like your mentor's at a workshop taking notes. See, I got crazy nervous. It's been the first time in a long time
Wow.
where I was like,
I wish I was there to witness that.
He pulled it off. He didn't seem nervous.
but I really was nervous. And so I thought to myself, if we have a guy with that kind of intelligence here, we should probably let him hop on the mic. And so I asked him to come up, and he talked a lot about how to grow a successful company, how to overcome your fear of cold calling. And he explained the story of how he and his partner grew a company from a 10x10 office space into a multi-million-dollar company. And I want to get your take on this, Z, before we go back into the audio.
Okay.
Is there anything worse than somebody who wants to argue with a mentor. Somebody who wants a mentor and then reaches out to you and wants your feedback, but then says, yeah, but in my industry, it's different.
It's really bad because it kind of, what happens is that you're hiring someone, you are appealing to someone, someone's giving their time, whether you're reimbursing them or not, maybe you're just buying them lunch, maybe they're doing it as a favor. I mean, however it sets up, all right? And now you've put them in the position of being someone that you want to listen to.
Right.
And that means keep your mouth shut.
Why in the world are you so hard to get a hold of? Why are people who are successful, why do they make themselves, I mean, you've worked your whole life to earn financial freedom and time freedom. Why do you value your time so much? Why not just make yourself infinitely available to anybody who wants to meet for lunch?
You answered the question, because I value my time.
What?
I know.
That seems a little bit deep.
I know when someone, it's always kind of a game. When someone actually gets through the gatekeepers, and they do that slide move, and then they duck,
spin,
and they do that.
Mission Impossible,
Mission Impossible, and they go up the building with nothing but suction cups. Next thing you know, they jar the window open, they get in, and they're sitting there in your office, and you're like, "Excuse me?" And they're like, "Yeah, I thought we had an appointment. I mean, I'm here for our 3:00."
Oh,
you know what I mean?
It's Corey, I want you to share with, because you're part of a group called Executive Experiences. Is that right?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell the listeners what Executive Experiences is all about, your group here?
Well, Executive Experiences is an opportunity for people to get to know one another much, much quicker. So, for example, if you were to go on an experience with someone, all of a sudden, and that experience was something extreme, like if you were to go down a boat and these carp fly up in the air and you catch them in nets, all of a sudden you have this bond that is rather close. And so you can take that relationship.
And you only go with business owners, right?
Only business owners. We need them to be at a certain level. And when you get around people who do this, you get smarter because you learn from one another. And guess what? We have had so many people do business with each other. We've all made a lot of money because people do business with people they like.
Now, Corey, this is one thing I wanted to tee up. And by the way, that mic, Chuck, can you angle his mic up just a little bit there? That way all the listeners get to just...
There it is. Is that better?
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
There he is.
So this is beautiful. So this is something. There's a guy in your executive experience group. I won't mention his industry.
Okay.
But we'll just make eye contact and you know who he is.
Yes.
He will not meet anybody ever. He and I are very similar. Okay,
yes.
And we'll just say that he has a very successful company in Tulsa, been around for a long time. He's built a big empire. Okay,
yes.
Can you talk to me or talk to the listeners out there? Can you share with us why, or share with the listeners some of the common traits because you're around so many successful people in your group, Executive Experiences.
Yes.
Share some of the common traits of the personalities of the successful entrepreneurs. What are some of the common denominators? Because you're around these guys. You're catching fish together. You're going to Chick-fil-A World Headquarters together. You're hanging out together. What are some of the common denominators of the kind of people that you'd want to have as a mentor?
It's a lot about what you and Z were talking about. It's just the protection of your time, but the being deliberate with the time that they have. And so I think that if you were to really base it down to this, everyone has only so many hours in the day. It's just that some people get a lot more done than other people do. And of the people in Executive Experiences that are, you just know they are crushing it. They are very deliberate with their time. I think that they got there only because they went through the whole idea of going to lunch with everyone and being, hey, can I pick your brain type of events. And they allowed themselves to go through that enough to where they realized, man, I can't ever get anything done because I'm trying to help everybody else out. So they got really deliberate with their time. They time-blocked their time, and they get a lot more done than most people do.
Therefore, when we have a chance to interview a guy who has thousands of railroad cars, who has time freedom and financial freedom, who showed up at a workshop and he volunteered his time to speak at the workshop, Z, we should probably take note of it.
Oh, yeah, we should. And I kind of feel bad.
You do feel bad?
Well, we've done this on occasion where we leave a little hanger. A little teaser.
Speaking of taking notes, I mean...
The 5 A's? Did I do... Oh. This just in. Let me say this before you get into your 5 A's.
Somebody's been sitting in their car needing to run in to go to the restroom in the truck stop.
This is what these...
But they wanted to catch the 5 A's, and they're sitting there.
Let me say this.
And it's just been... And I'm sorry.
Let me say this.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There is 5 A's that we're going to go over in just a second. But I am the number 1 A, if you know what I'm saying. I am the number, because I totally skipped that segment. So
I was going to say, Z's got
the
another
number
A for
1
you.
A. But ironically, I'm on the B team. So back to you, sir.
Or the C team.
Okay, break it down.
Well, we were talking earlier about something that our gentleman said in the conference, and it was dealt with how long do you put up with someone being chronically late? How long do you put up with a poor employee?
Right.
And so one of the answers was, well, you'll put up as long as you want to, and that may change depending upon how good they are in the 5 A's. In other words, you might give a little bit more grace if someone is really good, and the 5 breakdowns of what I say every great employee or every employee should be striving to. And they are, just real quickly, attendance, and that deals with being on time. That deals with maybe staying a little bit late if you need to. Appearance, I mean, are they sharp? They're high and tight? For me, does it look like they've slept on their scrubs for 3 days? Ugh, I hate that. Yeah, not good. Accuracy, when they're there, are they killing it? Are they doing it right? Or do I have to have someone come back and follow up after them?
Boo.
Boo, boo. Above and beyond, that's your rock star. That's the guy that's just killing it. You're going, wow. So he's a little late every now and then. Can you put up with it? Well, that's up to you. You know what I'm saying? And then attitude. When a person has all 5 of those and they're rocking them out, that's awesome. Now, you say, okay, they're only not doing one. Well, it depends on the one, how often they're doing it. So it's a balancing act. But you should always be looking for new employees, new great employees, and always have that philosophy, that mindset of, and I know this sounds crazy, pruning that worst employee. So there, we've kind of covered that.
Well, we've covered the 5 A's. Stay tuned. Our exclusive interview with Terry Fisher.
Attend the world's best business workshop led by America's #1 business coach for free by subscribing on iTunes and leaving us an objective review. Claim your tickets by emailing us proof that you did it and your contact information to info@thrivetimeshow.com.
Oh, Thrive Nation, years ago, there was a man by the name of Terry Fisher who was married to an Oral Roberts University cheer sponsor by the name of Julie Fisher. Now, Julie Fisher's daughter cheered with my wife at Oral Roberts University. You might be saying to yourself, so I don't understand. It was like a brother of a cousin of a third cousin. The point is, this guy was a very successful entrepreneur. This guy's a very successful entrepreneur. It still is a very successful entrepreneur. But Z, much like you, He's kind of in my top 5 of mentor guys.
Yeah, cool.
And how is it possible that a man would have thousands of railroad cars, multiple daughters, 1 wife, but he only works, from what I can tell, 2 to 3 hours a day?
That's crazy.
How is it possible?
That's crazy.
How is it possible? How are you guys doing it? How are you doing it?
Because he worked his butt off years ago.
How are you doing it, though? What do you do on a daily basis now? You got all these companies up in orbit. They're all spinning plates. What are you doing?
Well, until you drug me into this,
what are you doing?
Until you drug me into this radio show, i.e. podcast.
Right.
I didn't really do. I did whatever I wanted to do. Traveled, had fun. Thought about opening up new business. I've got some new business ideas that I'm getting ready to act on.
And by the way, now that we are in the top 10 on the business podcast platform consistently, you could probably promote those things right here on the show. So anything you want to breathe life into, now we have the platform. We're getting closer to our goal, which is to be on the cover of
Forbes magazine.
Boom.
We might have to do another 4 to 5 years of podcasts before we get there. And then once we get there, we're going to drop the mic. Then we're going to pick the mic back up and do another show.
Exactly. And then we'll frame that. and I'll carry it around with me wherever I go.
And then we'll tweet it.
So I'll be in Target going, hey, did you see that?
See that?
So the Forbes magazine. Right look, this guy looks a lot like me.
It's me.
So, Z, I'm excited. Without any further ado, our exclusive interview with Terry Fisher, who attended our in-person Thrivetime Show workshop, and he's the co-founder of Trinity Chemical. Stay tuned.
Well, we kind of learned early on that it's kind of a small world, really, and when you get down to calling clients and the people that move chemicals, and eventually you get a reputation out there. And so we realized early on that the word will spread if you don't perform. And so we had to literally always keep our word and always follow up and over-deliver. And so by keeping our costs low, we were able to say, grow the business, grow the revenue, and then start providing for our families before we hired our first employee. But the systems worked. I'll tell you, one of the really good things about keeping good records. I had a client call me up, and they had like 100 cars under lease from us. And so they called up and they said, hey, we need to talk to you about canceling the lease. Oh, okay, well, what's the problem? So the problem was some of the fittings up on top were not performing the way they thought they were supposed to perform, although they were to industry standards. So this conversation went for a while, back and forth about me trying to solve a problem. Finally, they called me and said, you need to come up here to Kansas City, and we just sat down and talk about this. Because we're going to cancel on you. We're going to, whatever we have to do. I said, well, okay, I'll come up there, but if you're going to try to cancel, you can tell me that over the phone, but I can tell you from my side of the table, we're not canceling. So we need to figure out how to work this out. Short story is, it was a multi-millions dollars worth of a contract, and by flying up there and listening to their complaint and really getting down to why they were upset and then figuring out a solution, saved the account, and we're still doing business with them today. The reason I bring that up is listening to your clients is paramount on helping them know that you understand their side of the table and that you will work with them. So that's keeping your word, and that's over-delivering, because we had to go back and refigure some of the valves, put different valves on. It cost us some money, but we saved the account.
You also avoid dealing with terrorist clients. Like, you try to go out of your way to not deal with psychos, I'm sure, which in our business coaching program might seem crazy to you, but we have probably, we can only work with 160 clients at one time. And so we have people every day reaching out to us, and 2 out of 3 times I'll tell Marshall they're not a good fit. Why? Because in the event that you coach somebody who's not coachable, they're going to get mad. And I'm not interested in helping people that are, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to work with somebody who's a difficult human. And so how do you deal with crazy clients? Once you go, we don't want that business. How do you deal with that?
First, listen to their problems, listen to them, explain it as best they can. See if that is a reasonable request. If not, you just have to figure out a way to say, listen, we have an agreement, but we're going to let you out of that agreement under these certain circumstances. If you'll do this, then we'll work with you, letting you out of the contract. And that usually involves an early termination settlement. But you figure out it's better to kind of softly, diplomatically let them vent to you, figure out a way out. And sometimes what they're telling you is not the real issue. They may be having cash flow problems, and they're figuring out a way to downsize for a little bit. So their first complaints may not be the real issue.
They're out of cash, and so they're going to complain about something. Deal with it all the time. All the time I deal with this. They're like, oh man, I tell you what, I didn't like the tonality of the person who cut my hair today. And you're like, okay. Yeah. So I saw your card got declined too. If we go ahead and give you a free haircut credit, is that good? Yeah. Hey, by the way, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I was actually kind of happy, but it's like they're going to say something that's not the real issue. Make sense?
Yeah. I got one more.
One more. Okay.
One more hot one. I see Dr. Z do this often, and I see Clay do this often. And I know that the way that you have your life and your business and your faith set up is one of the most important things that a business owner can have, and that's knowing when to not get caught up in the emotion of a business. Mm-hmm. So you grow a business big enough, you're going to have people try to take pieces of it or ride your coattails or try to steal your joy.
Write a bad review. So how do you keep the emotion from getting in the way of the motion of what needs to be done on thousands
a
of customers, thousands of railroad cars, thousands of personal training clients, thousands of home remodeling clients, thousands of whatever you're dealing with? How do you deal with that?
Again, it comes back to just listening to them first. If I can let them vent for just a little bit, and then they get it off their chest, and then I diplomatically, there's some of the guys in our organization that they kind of have this reputation that if it's somebody that's really giving us a really hard time, they're going to say, time out, we're going to get Terry on the phone here. Now, for whatever that reason, they don't say, I'm going to get Terry on the phone. They're going to say, we're going to get one of the other managers on the phone here, or they'll call me some other name. But I'll get on the phone with them, and I kind of have this diplomatic approach to solving the problems, because I figured out nobody wins if once somebody starts yelling, then nobody wins. So it just escalates. So you have to figure out a way for diplomacy to be a part of your business. You just can't get mad. It's just not worth it for you or the clients. And if eventually you're going to find out They're going to move on anyway, or it's just not worth it, or they're not big enough client, so move on to a bigger and better deal. But you have to remove that sort of emotional side of getting mad at somebody for something that really doesn't really matter all that much.
Chuck, do you drive a Ford?
I actually do.
And so if your Ford was having problems with its battery, you had a whole fleet of Fords, you had a big problem with your fleet, you had a transmission issue, heat and air systems, where would you take your Ford automobile?
I would take it to RC Auto Specialist. In fact, I'm going to do that here in the next week or so.
Really?
I am.
And it's not just because they're paying us. It's
because
that's 2/3 of the reason.
There's something wrong with the front end of my truck, and I want an honest mechanic to look at it.
RCAutospecialist.com. That's RCAutospecialist.com.
No negative emotion, cause that's what business is. Always dominate, cause I got 5 kids. I will not lose, I don't break but bruise. They can talk about me, I can take that abuse. But here is the truth, while they make that excuse, I'll be up grinding, cause the scoreboard's the truth. He is my mentor, like my Yoda dude. He showed me the force like I was a young Luke.
See, on today's show, we had a rare opportunity to interview Terry Fisher, who attended our conference, but he was a mentor of mine and is a mentor of mine. He's a guy who started Trinity Chemical, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical, and I did not expect him to attend the workshop. You never know who's going to buy a ticket or who listens to the show, but he loves the show. He bought a ticket, came to the workshop with his daughter from Manhattan, had a great time attending the event, and I thought to myself, he's really, really smart. And definitely the smartest guy in the room that I know of right now. So I should probably have him speak. And
Pretty
so
sharp.
in just a moment, we're going to go into our audio. We interviewed him at the workshop. We've recorded it, and I want to play it for all the listeners so they can be mentored by Terry Fisher, the co-founder of Trinity Chemical. But one of the things he's talking about during this particular audio excerpt is not letting things irritate you, not letting things just frustrate you and take your joy. And so I want to get your take on this. When somebody files unemployment against you, what do?
Smile.
Okay, smile. Step 1, smile.
Smile.
Got it. Step 1, I'm smiling.
Step 2, smile.
I do forget about it. Now, I know people that will fight those things tooth and nail. They'll fight them. The threshold here in Oklahoma, we're an at-will state here in Oklahoma. That means if you don't have a written contract, you can fire somebody for any reason you want to.
At will.
At will.
But
Okay.
if any event you lost.
But now here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
If you can prove that they were maliciously destroying your company, then you can keep them from getting unemployment.
Right.
But that is a high threshold. And you got to understand that the person who just helped them fill out the application is probably making $12 an hour themselves and wants to stick it to the man themselves.
Right.
And so, you're kind of up against it. Now, I've known people that have written and gotten attorneys and affidavits, and I mean they have worked, and they get it. The unemployment's gone. But I'm like, how much joy, how much time, how much is your life worth? And so for me, it's kind of like I always kind of liked it when I fired someone, and if they filed unemployment, they always felt like they got the last little oomph.
Oh, that's a oomph.
The little oomph. And I just, I just like water off a duck. Just don't worry about it.
Forget about it.
Have you ever seen a duck in the rain? They're not wet. It's just because it just rolls right off of them.
You and Terry Fishers are the master of that meta mindset. So without any further ado, our exclusive interview with the co-founder of Trinity Chemical, Terry Fisher.
You have to remove that sort of emotional side of getting mad at somebody for something that really doesn't really matter all that much.
Is that helpful for anybody? Is that helpful? So we're going to do, yes, you have a question for Terry? What we're going to do here is, you have a question? Yeah. How did you get started creating systems? The question is, how did you get started creating systems? How do you get over the paralysis by analysis?
Well, he mentioned making the telephone calls. That was it. Really, you just have to make enough calls to where the rejection doesn't bother you anymore. You're calling them up. I need to talk to whoever's in charge. Literally, when we were calling, we didn't. I'll tell you one really funny story. When we first got in, we were in trucking business first. We had trucks running 24/7 all over the country, and it was nightmarish because dealing with drivers and trucks and on time, and it was cutthroat. And we're like, we can't do this anymore. So we eventually hit on the idea that we would experiment with rail, but we knew zero about rail, nothing. So we went over to the Burlington Northern Yard because we knew they had a big rail yard out here, and we just went in and asked if we could talk to somebody. They said, yeah, what do you need to talk about? We said, we don't really know. They go, oh, well, there happened to be a lady there that had worked for the railroad for like 50 years. So she wasn't doing much, so we said, how about you? Can we talk to you for a minute? She said, sure. So we asked a few questions like, these cars that are going by here, where are they going? And she's like, well, they go down this hill and they switch over to this track and that track. And who do they belong to? They're going to different companies. Well, who owns them? You can tell by the initials and so forth. And after a few questions, 10 questions, she said, you guys really don't know a whole lot about rail, do you? And we said, we really don't. We know barely the difference between come here and sick 'em. And she started laughing. She goes, why do you want to know? And we said, well, we're thinking about maybe we could use some rail cars to do some business. And she said, tell you what you'll do. If you'll come over to here once a week and bring me a Whataburger and a Coke and some fries, I'll sit down with you and we'll have lunch and you can ask me any question you want. And I'll tell you the questions that you didn't ask, but you should be asking. This is what you should be saying, but you're not. So you don't even know enough to ask the right questions. I mean, that's us. That is us right there. We're coming. So every week for 2 months, we went over there with Whataburger. And we sat down and we learned, that's why you do that.
And then you document it as you learn it. So as you learn it, you don't make all your systems at one time. As you find what works, you document that. And what's neat about our system is we already have probably 1,000 downloadables that are already documented, so you can use pretty much all of them for your company. Like for your business, I mean, you can just copy most of the systems there. What we're going to do, though, is
let me say one.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
One more question, Terry. I want to tell you a quick story about why it's so important for each of you in your own business to keep learning, because you're never the smartest guy in your business. Never. There's always somebody smarter than you in your business. That I've never run anybody in my industry that thinks they know 100% of everything about the railcar business. We learned early on that no company has every car that's ever needed at the right time, at the right place, sitting idle, doing nothing, waiting for them to call us and say, hey, I heard you had this car here. It's the perfect car for me, perfect price, perfect timing, perfect everything. No one does that. No one has that. And that, I guarantee you, that's the same in your business. Nobody in your business knows 100% of everything about your industry. You will be just as smart, but you have to keep learning. So along those lines about being a lifelong learner, I would encourage whatever business you're in, that whether it's dog training or whether it's fitness world, you need to keep on the idea of reading these books that he's telling you about, reading about the systems, trying them out, experiment, keep moving, keep doing, keep calling. In the very beginning, you asked about how we started in the very beginning. We had a very simple sheet of a call list. Every call we made, we wrote down the date, the time, the company, the contact name, and what happened. So we had these little things out there. Left message for him to call back. That was like, we saw that 1,000,000 times. Left a message. Finally got a hold of him. So we had hundreds and thousands of those call sheets until we finally had started getting some success. But it's calling and documenting every call all the time and always learning. Always reading, learning about your business.
Terry's going to be here today during lunch. He and his daughter will be here. So if you want to interrogate him, he's just an absolute source of wisdom. Let's hear it for Terry Fisher, everybody. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. Z, an incredible interview with Terry Fisher. If you're there listening right now, you're in your car, you're driving around listening to the podcast, go check out Trinity Chemical. Check out their website. It's Trinity Chemical. I'm probably 99.97% sure that you will not be able to hire them and you will have absolutely no need for their services. But if you do want to lease a railroad car to haul your hazardous chemicals, that's your company. But there again, Z, that's a niche. It's just one niche. Z, talk to me about the importance of staying in your lane and staying with one niche until you become dominant.
I find that kind of crazy. I'll be talking to a person who started a business, and it really doesn't have traction yet. I mean, they're going. The next thing you know, they're talking about doing all these other vertical integrated things within that business.
Okay, come on now.
And it just makes me a little crazy at times because I want to say, listen, own the space you're in, own that, make a good living doing it. And then whenever you've conquered it and you're not having to show up every day, you're not having to work the cash register, you're not having to do everything yourself, and you actually can now work on the business and not in the business, now's the time. Now's the time you can start thinking about when you can get the pebble from my hand.
How long were you in the optometry industry before move on to other
Before
industry?
I could get the pebble?
How long were
young
you?
grasshopper.
How long?
I fought for
How
that
long
pebble.
is a Chinese man?
I fought for that pebble many, many days.
8 years?
Many days.
How long before you moved to different industry?
Oh, about 8 years, 9 years.
8 years.
8 years.
You obviously not embrace opportunity.
I finally
8 long years.
I finally figured out the trick to get the pebble.
My son.
You hit the bottom of his hand and it fall out.
Bottom of hand.
And then you can pick it off ground.
But you stayed in the same industry for 8 years before you went into a different one.
Yeah, exactly.
Be fruitful, then multiply.
Boom,
Wow.
boom. Hey, ooh,
Hey, now.
oh, now
There's
you're
just-
just.
Whoa.
Oh.
That's been
Now,
said.
Thrive
This is not
Nation-
a slam. Hoo-ha.
Thrive Nation, we transcribe each and every show. We put it on the podcast. We put it on the show notes
That's
at
right.
thrivetimeshow.com. So if you want to find today's show notes and all show notes archived and transcribed via endquote.net. We use endquote.net to transcribe all of our podcasts. Go to thrivetimeshow.com today. And Z, at thrivetimeshow.com, you can find podcasts, one-on-one business coaching, conferences, thousands of videos. And we like to end this show with a 3, 2, and a 1. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom!
Hello, my name is Charles Kolaw with Kolaw Fitness. Today I want to tell you a little bit about Clay Clark and how I know Clay Clark. Clay Clark has been my business coach since 2017. He's helped us grow from 2 locations to now 6 locations. We're planning to do 7 locations in 7 years and then franchise. And Clay has done a great job of helping us navigate anything that has to do with like running the business, building the systems, the checklists, the workflows, the audits, how to navigate lease agreements, how to buy property, how to work with brokers and builders. This guy is just amazing. He's this kind of guy has worked in every single industry. He's written books with like Lee Cockrell, head of Disney, with the 40,000 cast members. He's friends with like Mike Lindell. He does Reawaken America tours where he does these tours all across the country where 10,000 or more people show up to some of these tours. On the day-to-day, he does anywhere from about 160 companies. He's at the top. He has a team of business coaches, videographers, and graphic designers and web developers, and they run 160 companies every single week. So think of this guy with a team of business coaches running 160 companies. So in the weekly, he's running 160 companies. Every 6 to 8 weeks, he's doing Reawaken America tours. Every 6 to 8 weeks, he's also doing business conferences where 200 people show up, and he teaches people a 13-step proven system that he's done and worked with billionaires, helping them grow their companies. So I've seen guys from startups go from startup to being multimillionaires, teaching people how to get time freedom and financial freedom through the system. Critical thinking, document creation, putting it into organizing everything in their head to building it into a franchisable, scalable business. Like one of his businesses has like 500 franchises. That's just one of the companies or brands that he works with. So amazing guy. Elon Musk kind of like smart guy. He kind of comes off sometimes as socially awkward, but he's so brilliant and he's taught me so much. When I say that, like Clay is like, he doesn't care what people think when you're talking to him. He cares about where you're going in your life and where he can get you to go. And that's what I like most about him. He's like a good coach. A coach isn't just making you feel good all the time. A coach is actually helping you get to the best you. And Clay has been an amazing business coach. Through the course of that, we became friends. I was really most impressed with him is when I was shadowing him one time. We went into a business deal and listened to it. I got to shadow and listen to it. And when we walked out, I knew that he could make millions on the deal. And they were super excited about working with him. And he told me, he's like, I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to turn it down because he knew it was going to harm the common good of people in the long run. And the guy's integrity just really wowed me. It brought tears to my eyes to see that this guy, his highest desire was to do what's right. And anyways, just an amazing man. So anyways, impacted me a lot. He's helped navigate anytime I've got nervous or worried about how to run the company or, navigating competition and an economy that's like, I remember we got closed down for 3 months. He helped us navigate on how to stay open, how to get back open, how to just survive through all the COVID shutdowns, lockdowns, because our clubs were all closed for 3 months, and you have $350,000 of bills you've got to pay, and we have no accounts receivable. He helped us navigate that, and of course we were conservative enough that we could afford to take that on for a period of time. But it was anyways, great man. I'm very impressed with him. So Clay, thank you for everything you're doing, and I encourage you, if you haven't ever worked with Clay, work with Clay. He's going to help magnify you, and there's nobody I have ever met that has the ability to work as hard as he does. He probably sleeps 4, maybe 6 hours a day, and literally the rest of the time he's working, and he can outwork everybody in the room every single day, and he loves it. So anyways, this is Charles Kola with Kola Fitness. Thank you, Clay, and anybody out there that's wanting to work with Clay, it's a great opportunity to ever work with him. So you guys have a blessed one. This is Charles Kola. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
The Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshops are the highest and most reviewed business workshops on the planet.
You can learn the proven 13-point business systems that Dr. Zellner and I have used over and over to start and grow successful companies. I mean, we get into the specific steps on what you need to do to optimize your website. We're going to teach you how to fix your conversion rate. We're going to teach you how to do a social media marketing campaign that works. How do you raise capital? How do you get a small business loan? We teach you everything you need to know here during a 2-day, 15-hour workshop. It's all here for you. You work every day in your business, but for 2 days you can escape and work on your business and build these proven systems, so now you can have a successful company that will produce both the time freedom and the financial freedom that you deserve. You're going to leave energized, motivated, but you're also going to leave empowered. The reason why I've built these workshops is because as an entrepreneur, I always wish that I had this. And because there wasn't anything like this, I would go to these motivational seminars, no money down, real estate, Ponzi scheme, get motivated seminars, and they would never teach me anything. It was like you went there and you paid for the big chocolate Easter bunny, but inside of it, it was a hollow nothingness. And I wanted the knowledge, and they're like, oh, but we'll teach you the knowledge after our next workshop. And the great thing is we have nothing to upsell. At every workshop, we teach you what you need to know. There's no one in the back of the room trying to sell you some next big get-rich-quick, walk-on-hot-coals product. It's literally, we teach you the brass tacks, the specific stuff that you need to know to learn how to start and grow a business. And I encourage you to not believe what I'm saying, and I want you to Google the Z66 auto auction. I want you to Google elephant in the room. Look at Robert Zellner and Associates. Look them up and say, are they successful because they're geniuses, or are they successful because they have a proven system? When you do that research, you will discover that the same systems that we use in our own business can be used in your business. Come to Tulsa, book a ticket, and I guarantee you it's going to be the best business workshop ever, and we'll even give you your money back if you don't love it. We've built this facility for you, and we're excited to see you.